Yo, Headliner Nation, what's going on? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and I have our first must-have video of the 2021 season. You know, these videos right here, okay, these are the big ones. These are the ones where we really go in depth and dive into the players that we absolutely need to be drafting this coming fantasy football season. And Derrick Henry is a guy that I cannot believe that I have to put in another must-have video. This is now season 3 that I have been trying to tell everybody, draft Derrick Henry. But when are the excuses going to run out? When are people going to stop being afraid of drafting Derrick Henry? I mean, 2 years ago, it was, oh, Dion Lewis is going to be an issue for him again, and he doesn't catch anything out of the backfield, and this isn't going to be, you know, Derrick Henry isn't going to be anything. And boom, the absolute massive breakout happens. And then then last year, it's like, hey, you got to draft Derrick Henry, but he doesn't get any receptions out of the backfield. He doesn't get any work in the passing game. There's no way he can be as efficient that he was last year. Boom, 2,000-yard season. And this year, oh, the usage is going to catch up to him. He's 27 years old. That's when running backs start to fall. It's excuse after excuse after excuse each and every season. But I want to come here today to calm the nerves about Derrick Henry and why he is one of, if not the safest running back that you can pick in 2021. Now, I'm not going to go deep diving on the statistics. Why? You know him. He's good. I don't have to tell you that he's good. Do I? No, I didn't think so. But what I do need to help convince you of is that his 2,000-yard season and his workload that he has had previous isn't going to come back to bite him this year, and this isn't going to be the downfall of him. So we're going to take a look at some of the other running backs who have had 2,000-yard seasons, what those have looked like, what has happened afterwards, and what will set Derrick Henry apart from those other running backs. So the 2,000-yard club is as such. You've got O.J. Simpson when he was with the Bills, Eric Dickerson, Barry Sanders, Terrell Davis, Jamal Lewis, Chris Johnson, Adrian Peterson. Okay, these are the guys who have put together 2,000 rushing yards on the ground so far. O.J. Simpson, when he ran for 2,000 yards, he was 26 years old, and it was his first season with over 332 carries. Now, the season after that, played in 14 games, okay? Because back then they had 14 game seasons in 74. So 14 games and 332 rushing attempts, 2,003 yards. Now, the year after that, pretty significant fall back down to grace, but he still had 270 rushing attempts and ran for 1,125 yards. But the year after that, we're all the way back up to 329 for 1,817. And then in year 29, he ran 290 times for 1,503 yards. So O.J. Simpson, yeah, kind of a down year the year after, but it definitely wasn't the end of his career. What about Eric Dickerson? Eric Dickerson ran for 2,105 yards in 1984 when he was 24 years old. Now, again, year after that, yeah, a little bit of a down year. He played in 2 less games, though. He ran for 292 attempts for 1,234 yards. So his yards per attempt dropped from 5.6 to 4.2. He didn't run the ball as many times. But then in his age 26 season, 86, he went up to 404 rushing attempts. And then down to 283 in 1987, and then all the way back up to 388 and 88, and then 314 and 89. So he was still getting 300 rushing attempts a game, or a season. That's insane. 300 rushing attempts a season all the way through his age 29 season. What about one of the GOATs, one of the best to ever do it, Barry Sanders? He ran for 2,053 yards when he was 29 years old. Now, Barry Sanders, he ran at least 300 times from 1991 to 1998, with the exception of one season. So essentially 3 times in his career, he didn't get 300 rushing attempts in a season. He ran for 2,053 yards. The year after that, he ran 343 times, but only for 1,491. So yes, some of that efficiency is coming back down, but he still ran 343 times in his year 30 season. Unfortunately, that was his final season. retired way too early. Really wish the Lions would have gotten him a ring. I'm not going to hold that against him right now, though. That's a different video for a different day. What about Terrell Davis? Terrell Davis, when he was with the Denver Broncos, ran for 2,008 yards in his age 26 season. Now, Terrell Davis is the one guy that you can look at and say, oh man, the workload must have really done him in, because then he only played in 4, 4, and 8 games over the next 3 seasons. So only 16 games total. Only ran for 701 yards his final year in Denver in 2001, his final season at the age of 29. So that, yes, ran for 2,008 yards and 21 touchdowns, and then absolutely fell off a cliff after that. What about Jamal Lewis? Back when he was with the Baltimore Ravens, ran for 2,066 yards. And then after that, it did start to go downhill for him. He only ran for 1,000 a year after that, but he only played in 12 games that next season. He only played in 12 games. So if you take a look at the pace wasn't nearly as far off is what some would go to expect. If he would have played in 16 games, he still would have touched the ball over 300 times, and his yards per attempt were right around 4.3. So it was a little bit less than a yard per attempt. So yes, the yards came down, but we're not here to argue that a guy that runs for 2,000 yards is going to do it again, right? I don't think we expect any of these guys to run for 2,000 yards and then do it again. So I'm not saying Derrick Henry is going to run for another 2,000 yards. Some of that is going to come down, but some of the, guys are done after they do it, some of it might be a little bit overblown. What about Chris Johnson? Chris Johnson in his sophomore season at the age of 24 ran for 2,006 yards, and he touched the ball quite a few times there too. Chris Johnson getting 358 touches, and then he bounces back in 2010, the year after, runs to 316 times. So he saw a little bit more of a downfall, but we're going to talk about more why here in a second, and why Chris Johnson, you're going to see a little bit of a downfall from more than you would see like a Derrick Henry. And then Adrian Peterson still going strong today at the age of 36. He ran for 2,097 yards in 2012. Remember that year removed from ACL surgery. Dude came back gangbusters, 348 rushing attempts at the age of 27. Now, he only played in 14 games in 2013, so he only ran 279 times. But if he would have played in 16 games, he would have went back over that 300 touch mark. Now, we all remember in 2014, he was suspended for almost the entire season after the child abuse issues. So he missed that entire season. And then when he came back in 2015, he ran the ball 327 times for 1,485 yards. That was his final season there not his final season in Minnesota all the way, but it was his final stint in Minnesota before being traded in 2016. So again, Adrian Peterson, he kept it up. Even with Washington in 2018, he went for 251 carries. So it's not like Adrian Peterson, that was at the age of 33. So it's not like Adrian Peterson completely disappeared. But what's one thing that we have to take into account with all of these running backs that I don't see anybody talking about? Okay, when I see people when I see people talking about Derrick Henry, they're talking about his production. They're talking about his efficiency. They're talking about, this is what guys did the year after they ran for 2,000 yards. They're talking about, this is, so nobody's talking about the one thing that a lot of these guys have in common is how big they are. Okay, O.J. Simpson, when he was in his playing days, 6'2", 212 pounds. Eric Dickerson was coming in at 6'3", 220. Barry Sanders, the smallest of the bunch, was at 5'8", 203. Terrell Davis at 5'11", 206. Jamal Lewis, he was up there at 245, but he was only 5'11". Chris Johnson, 5'11", 195. And Adrian Peterson, 6'1", 220. Okay, so all of these guys, right? We've got like O.J. Simpson, Eric Dickerson, Adrian Peterson. They're pretty close together. You've got Barry Sanders, Terrell Davis, Chris Johnson. Those guys are pretty close together. Jamal Lewis, obviously much higher than them weight-wise, but he's much smaller than what the other guys were. So these guys are built differently, okay? When you look at King Henry King Henry rises above the rest, okay? Brand new member of the 2,000 yard club last season. Derrick Henry coming in at a crispy 6'3", 247 pounds, okay? So let's just go back and compare. He's 6'3", 247, all right? Look at the rest of these guys. 6'2", 212, 6'3", 220. He's got 20 pounds on Eric Dickerson. He's got 30 pounds on O.J. Simpson. He's got over 40 pounds and several inches on Barry Sanders. He's got 40 pounds on Terrell Davis. He's got just a few pounds on Jamal Lewis, but he's much taller than Jamal Lewis. He's got 50 pounds on Chris Johnson and several inches, and he's got over 20 pounds and a couple of inches on Adrian Peterson. Derrick Henry is built differently than the rest of these running backs, and that is what I have been trying to stress to everybody going into this draft season. That yes, we look at Derrick Henry with back-to-back 300-yard seasons or 300-touch seasons, okay? So he had 303 rushing attempts in 2019, and he had 378 in 2020. But look at the other guys' careers. They touched the ball well over 300 times majority of their career. Derrick Henry in 2016 only had 110 rushing attempts. In 2017, he only had 176. In his breakout year of 2018, he only had 215 attempts. So it's not like the guy has been touching the ball over 300 times a season the last 5 seasons. He's only touched the ball well over 300 times once in 2020. He only had 303 rushing attempts in 2019. And Derrick Henry is built differently. When have you ever seen Derrick Henry take a hard hit? Never. I can guarantee you that if you go through all the tape, you've never seen Derrick Henry take a hard hit. Derrick Henry doesn't take hits. He gives hits out. He lays people out. He throws that stiff arm out there. Derrick Henry's brought down after a couple of guys can get on him and bring him to the ground. Derrick Henry rolls over people. Okay? That wasn't all these guys' games. Okay? Adrian Peterson was able to do that. Obviously, Terrell Davis could a little bit, Jamal Williams. But not all these guys were put the shoulder pads down and run people over because they're not going to come close to hitting you. Derrick Henry doesn't take the same amount of hits or doesn't take the same type of hits that a lot of these other guys have taken in their career. So Derrick Henry this year, we're taking a step up, okay? We're taking a step up in 2020. We're going back to that 300 rushing attempts, okay? Is he going to go for 2,000 yards this year? Probably not. But look at his yards per attempt over his career, okay? 4.5 in 2016, 4.2 in 2017, up to 4.9 in 2018, 5.1 in 2019, 5.4 in 2020. Several of the guys that you saw listed here in this video today averaged over 6 yards per carry in their 2,000-yard seasons, okay? Derrick Henry averaged 5.4, and it wasn't really a whole lot more than what we've seen him average in his career so far. So it wasn't, I mean, yeah, he got over 70 more carries in 2020, but those yards per attempt didn't go down. And some of those other efficiency things that we look at, and trust me, we'll talk about it more as the offseason goes on. We'll have more on Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's efficiency can stay where it's at, and let's say we ramp him back down to like that 300 rushing attempt mark. Well, guess what? We're still going to see a year similar to 2019 when he went 303 for 1540 and 16 touchdowns. Give that to me in the first round every single time, Headliner Nation. Okay? Every single time. So if the efficiency comes down, who cares? Or if the volume comes down, who cares? The efficiency can still stay there because his efficiency wasn't crazy last season compared to the rest of his career. Okay, so even if we pull back some of that volume, even if we bring him back towards 300, the dude is still a locked in stone RB1. And because we know the type of volume he's going to get, that's awesome. That's great. Okay, let's book it in. People talk about the A.J. Brown and Corey Davis issues, right? Corey Davis is gone. So is Jonnu Smith. But listen, Jonnu Smith wasn't putting up a whole lot of production. Corey Davis wasn't doing anything until last year. So if you look at 2 years ago when you had Corey Davis doing basically nothing and A.J. Brown in his rookie year, I mean, what's the difference in that team this year? It's not a whole lot. So if you're worried about that, I wouldn't be. And ladies and gentlemen, they might be adding Julio Jones. Who knows? They're trying to potentially set themselves up for it. The trade of Julio Jones to Tennessee just makes way too much sense. Will it happen? I don't know. Probably a long shot at this point. But Atlanta is probably going to try and trade him. And if they do, Tennessee is going to be a great spot to land. And that's excellent news for Derrick Henry. So ladies and gentlemen, in 2021, spend a first-round pick on Derrick Henry. It's all right. You're going to be able to probably still to get him in the mid-first round. People are going to be drafting Christian McCaffrey. They're going to be drafting Dalvin Cook. They're going to be drafting, they're going to be drafting some other guys with higher upside. Maybe they take a shot at Devontae Adams a little bit early. Maybe, there's some different things that could obviously go into play there. Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, those guys might come off the board a little bit early. Derrick Henry is probably going to go in the mid-first round, okay? We don't like that first round pick up at the very beginning, right? Because you have to wait all that time to come back through. But if you're picking right in the middle, that sweet spot, ladies and gentlemen, Derrick Henry is your RB1 every single time you press that draft button in the first round this season. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you all enjoyed that video, and hopefully I calmed you all a little bit on staying away from Derrick Henry, okay? Hopefully you're a little bit more in tune with me now, and we understand that Derrick Henry is going to be a guy that we want to take a shot on in 2021 again. So do me a favor, Headliner Nation, hit that like button for me down below. Make sure you leave a comment and let me know, would you draft Derrick Henry and where? So not just would you draft him, but would you draft him and where? I want to know, are you comfortable taking him in the mid first? Would you rather have him fall to the late first? Are you skipping on him completely for some reason? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, hit that subscribe button, stick around. Don't forget those memberships are active as well right down below me, unless you're on iPhone. You can hit that join button. If you're on iPhone, go find yourself a desktop. Hit that join button. $5 a month. Going to get you a bunch of extra stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So peace out. Stay safe. Stay healthy. I'm going to catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.